Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I'm not furious. I'm not even upset. I told y'all last week, if you follow me in any other of the platforms that I work for and I do shows for, then you heard me say consistently, this team was in a world of trouble going up against Detroit. Cowboys lose to Detroit 47-9, giving up almost 500 yards of total offense to the Detroit Lions. The Lions, they toyed with the Cowboys. They had 11 tackle eligible plays that they ran. 11. Dan Campbell was hell bent on we gonna get one of our offensive linemen in the end zone. 11. Jokers don't run 11 tackle eligible players in a season. They ran 11 in one game. And what I loved about it from the Lions standpoint, I love Petty. I love Petty. I strive in Petty. I flourish in Petty. I relish Petty moments. I told y'all, Dan Campbell was coming to prove a point. Dan Campbell and the Lions felt like they got cheated last year at AT&T Stadium with the whole eligible tackle or whatnot. Dan Campbell felt like the Cowboys didn't belong on the same field as him. Dan Campbell is a former player. He understands what it means of setting the tone. See, I've been in a couple fights in my life. And there's one thing about when you have a close fight, you know what I'm saying? Like you fighting somebody and you don't really dominate them. So when y'all leave the fight, you may have felt like you won and you may have actually won. But that other person that you were fighting, they thought the fight was closer than it probably was. So there's a level of hope that they still believe so that if we run into each other again, I can get Jesse the next time. I can get this person the next time. And so the way that they may treat you now is not with the proper level of respect that a good whooping would give you. You know what a good whooping feel like. Your respect changes. Your respect changes from a good whooping. Dan Campbell wanted to be like, oh, see, last year they beat us by 1 point. Even though I went for it 2 times in a row, I could have kicked the field goal, went into overtime, probably won in overtime. Dan Campbell said, I'm going to leave no doubt. Not just for Sunday, but in the event that I run across you again in the playoffs. In the event that we happen to cross paths again. I don't want you to get into the meeting room and be like, yo, we were 1 play away. 1 or 2 things go our way. We can win that game. Dan said, nah. When you watch this film, you'll be embarrassed. And I'm leaving no doubt that the next time we cross paths, this is what you're getting. They ran tackle eligible plays. They played in your face the entire game. They ran a double reverse flea flicker to the tight end. Oh, if that play looked very familiar, the Niners ran that very same play to George Kittle to score a touchdown. The very same play. The very same play. And granted, the Cowboys were down a bunch of players. But the way they whooped them on the Cowboys, 47-9, you didn't even get into the end zone. Even if you would have had those players, it still would have been bad. The Cowboys have So many issues. And that's why I didn't even want to engage with people talking about the trade deadline and bringing guys. You're not one player away. You're a full offseason, a guaranteed draft, a empty the clip spending in free agency away from being a competitive team again. Like, you need all your draft picks to hit. Oh, and by the way, because I don't think, I told you I love Petty. Don't think those of you who were all saying to me last week, well, here's what the best five should be. That we should take Tyler Smith and move him to left tackle and let TJ Bass play left guard. That's our best five. Tyler Smith got worked. TJ Bass got abused. Zach Martin, Lord, this is how you know it's bad. Zach Martin may have had the worst game in his NFL career. According to PFF, Zach Martin graded out in pass protection 0. And his overall grade was like a 24. Zach Martin. To which many of you, if I asked you who was your best offensive lineman, without hesitation, and I get it, you would have said Zach Martin. God, worked. You had no answer for Detroit. You let Aleem McNeil, I thought he was the second coming of Aaron Donald. I thought Aaron Donald had came back into the league and was playing tackle again the way that McNeil was pressuring the quarterback and getting sacks. Let me also say this, sidebar, thoughts and prayers to Aiden Hutchinson. Freak accident, was going in for the sack, whipped his leg around, and he hit shin on shin. If you remember the Anderson Silva, remember when Anderson Silva went to kick, and when he kicked that lower leg and his shin and his leg just kept wrapping around the other person's leg? That's what happened. When Aiden was coming around, he swung his leg around and his shin hit the shin of an offensive lineman or another defensive lineman and shattered. He had surgery last night for a broken tibia. I don't know what the recovery for that is. I don't know if it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Don't know if he'll be back for playoffs or how significant the damage is. But it sucks. Like, that's the kind of thing that you don't want to see any player ever have those type of injuries. But it's always something when it's a player that you enjoy watching. Like, the league, your league is built on good football, but your league is built on stars. And when you have a premium one like Aiden Hutchinson go out, it sucks because you don't get a chance to watch it. Even when they're not going up against your team, you still like to sit down and watch good football players. And that's a huge blow for that particular team. I think there may be an answer how to fill that void. I'll get into that a little bit later. But this Cowboys team got mauled, got abused. And the thing that continues to stick out to me the most is there is zero accountability on this football team. Zero. No one's accountable. Everyone puts the onus on someone else. No one is willing to step up and say it's like truly say it's my fault. Like, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it starts with Jerry. It does. Because this is the team that you built. This is the team that you built. And Jerry may not want to fully admit it. And he kind of backtracked on it a little bit about a week or so ago. But if you put everything in order chronologically of how he's approached this offseason, the training camp, and everything about that. And in this, sometimes with Jerry, you have to read in between the lines. And when he told you that, yeah, I'm gonna pay Dak, but he's gonna have to play with less. Y'all thought he was playing. He ain't playing. He ain't playing with y'all. And this is not a good, and this is not a good team. Not a good roster. There are some good components to it. This is not a championship competing roster. I don't care what they say. It's not a championship competing roster. You have far too many holes. You have far too many needs that were not addressed that are bigger than Achilles' heels. They're your whole damn leg. And I get it. You were out Micah and Tank and Deron Bland and Kason Carson, and the list goes on and on. And Guyton went to the bench, and I get it. Eric Kendricks, Sam Williams. This is not a good football team. And no one takes accountability for it. I've said this time and time again. We got to bring back public shaming. Like, you watch that game and you watch Trayvon Diggs make business decision after business decision after business decision when it came to tackling. Now, I'm not asking. I'm a reasonable dude. As someone who moonlighted, if you will, in the National Football League, I get it. Like, trying to tackle a guy like Derrick Henry who's coming around the corner and he's built up momentum and speed. I get a business decision here and there. You know, if you're a cornerback and the guard or the tackle is pulling out and he's now lead blocking down the sideline and you're standing in the tracks and the train is coming at you. But you were making business decisions on David Montgomery. Unacceptable. Offensive. Mozzie. Where's the Mozzie from the New York Giants game? Like, you were excited and happy that you finally showed up. And you reverted right back to who you've been those other 20-something games besides that one game in New York. And sure enough, in the biggest game that when we needed the team to play at its height, when we needed those who were putting on the uniform to play A+ level at the same time all together for 4 quarters, you were back to being laid off the football. You were back to being moved around and pushed around. You were back to not having penetration in the offensive line. And I know there's no accountability that's being really held in that locker room because these are the same things we've been talking about for a while. These are the same things that we continuously discuss, podcast in, podcast out. Tackling, assignment alignment, not being pushed off the ball, blocking somebody, like playing with a level of toughness. We talked about this over and over and over. And even with the coaches, Zim was supposed to be able to come in here and be that guy who gets everybody lined up and in order and crack their whip and do all those things. And Mike McCarthy, Michael from Pittsburgh is what I call you now. I don't call him Freaky Mike no more. I call him Michael from Pittsburgh. He said in his press conference today that their basics are not in order. Like, when I hear things like the basics are not in order, when I hear you in your press conference and you say in your press conference that, yeah, we're practicing hard, but we're not practicing well. And when I hear you say that, oh yeah, we're doing the things, we have all these drills that we do for tackling and blocking. When I hear these things, Michael from Pittsburgh, but then I see what happens on the field, I'm perplexed. I'm confused. I'm dumbfounded. Because these are things, our basics aren't in order, that's a coaching problem. I told y'all maybe 2 podcasts ago, when you have misassignments, when you have lack of intensity, when you have missing tackles, when guys, you had 2 offenses, you had Zach Martin and you had Hunter Lipke blocking the same dude. Guy comes in and get a sack on Dak Prescott. You had Luke Schoonmaker who's pushes down in on a chip block and then runs up the field and runs right into Jalen Brooks. When you have those levels of stumbling, bumbling mistakes, I told you guys, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it. That's it. Good teams don't consistently have the same mistakes happen over and 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 over again. That's coaching. It's no different than being a parent. If your kid keeps getting in trouble for the same thing, or your kid is unable to correct the things on a spelling test or whatever, then you're not doing your job as a parent. There's not a good enough emphasis, and Mike, if you're allowing Mike Zimmer to kind of just do his own thing on the defensive side, because Lord knows that ain't showing up, it's gonna cost you your job too. The players have to be accountable to the players, which I don't believe that they are. I just don't. I don't believe that they're an accountable group as a whole. As a whole. But neither are the coaches. You're not holding anyone accountable. And I know that it's difficult because I know fans are going to say, bench this guy, bench that guy. You're not benching Trayvon Diggs. Sorry, guys. Not in this organization. Maybe in others somewhere else, not in this one. And if you ask me why, I can tell you 97 million reasons why. You don't bench money on this organization. No matter how bad that they're playing.